Welcome back, Music Maniacs, to another episode of Gibbs Drops the Needle. I'm Gibbs. Today, I have for you a little bit of streaming information because I figured since later this week I will go through the top 10 Billboard songs and hopefully the top 10 Billboard albums as well. I kind of wanted to dive into a little bit about streaming payouts, and how long it takes for you to listen to count as a stream. So let's get into it here. I have information about the streaming payouts as of last year going into this year when it comes to different platforms and what they pay out. Now, I know that we hear a lot of musicians poke fun at the amount of money that they are receiving from these major platforms for their streams. So let's see if their complaints are valid or not. So starting out with Napster, we have an average payout of anywhere from 0.019 of a cent to 0.021 of a cent. So we have basically around 2 cents per stream on Napster. Qobuz is 0.018 to 0.019 cents, so almost a full 2 cents per stream. Tidal gives out 0.012 cents to 0.015 cents, so just floating right over a cent per stream. Apple Music gives 0.007 to 0.01 cents, so we have not even a cent per stream on Apple in some cases, and it doesn't get any better from there. We have Deezer that gives out 0.005 to 0.007 cents, so maybe just over a half a cent per stream on Deezer. Amazon Music is 0.004 to 0.008 cents. Spotify is 0.003 to 0.005 cents. And Pandora is 0.001 to 0.002 cents on average. And YouTube Music, which it varies widely by premium and ad-supported streams, but the average is around 0.0006 to 0.008 cents. So they have the lowest bottom out of all the streaming platforms that were listed here. So a lot of these streaming platforms aren't giving more than 2 cents per play, and you're lucky if you're even making 1 cent per play on a lot of these platforms. So when a musician gripes about the amount of money that they're earning from these streaming platforms, just to put that in perspective, to earn $1,000 from some of these streaming networks, on Napster, you would need roughly about 50,000 plays to get to $1,000 on Napster. Tidal, you would need around 78,000 plays to get to $1,000. And Apple Music, you would need 125 to 140,000 plays to get to $1,000. Deezer, you would need about 156,000 plays to get to $1,000. Amazon Music, you would need 250,000 plays to reach $1,000. Spotify, you would need anywhere from around 250,000 to 330,000 plays to reach $1,000. And again, YouTube Music varies based off of premium streams and the ad-supported streams, but it is often around 140,000 plus premium streams to get to that $1,000 mark and far more if you are using an ad supported stream. So some of these tiers depend on whether you have people paying for the streaming service as opposed to just using the free model of these streaming services. Still, I don't want to knock on Spotify here because most of these artists do earn the majority of their money off of Spotify just due to Spotify's large audience. Apple Music and Tidal may pay more per stream, but it sometimes is more of the quantity of the streams, and Spotify, with having the most users, pays out the most of these artists, even though it's taking more streams to do that. So I guess that they do have a gripe when it comes to how much they are getting for these streams, because you're looking in some cases 250,000 streams just to get to $1,000. And $1,000 seems like a lot of money to most people, but you got to keep in mind that a lot of these artists don't own the full rights to their songs. They have record labels that get a piece of the pie. They have writers that might get a piece of the pie if they don't do all the writing themselves. They might have music distribution costs because some of these artists have to pay to have their music on all these services. So yes, you're getting $1,000 for 250,000 streams or whatever it is, depending on what platform you're using, but you're also splitting that $1,000 between everyone involved with that song or that album. So speaking of albums, I often wondered how they judge the album sales nowadays. I came from a time, and I'm sure most people can remember a time where you had to go and buy an album, whether that be on vinyl, cassette, CD, or even in the early days of Apple Music, that was more known as iTunes at the time, you still had to buy an album. Most physical copies ranged, $12 to $15. And then I noticed on iTunes, I remember a lot, $10 would usually get you an album. So it was kind of easier to judge how many album sales you were getting because you had to have a fan go out, spend their hard-earned money, and actually buy an album, whether that be digitally or physically. So it brought me to wondering, how do they judge that in a day where most people pay for a music streaming service and they don't go out and usually buy a physical copy of an album? So let's get into those figures because I was able to figure out how they judge that. One album sale equivalent is generally counted for Billboard as 1,000 premium streams. Now that would be Spotify Premium, Apple Music, anything where someone is paying a subscription. So it doesn't seem like they count if you're using the platform for free and using ad supported, they don't count that towards an album sale. It has to be a premium stream. So you would need 1,000 premium streams to count as an album. If you are using the free tier of whatever music streaming platform you're using, it takes 2,500 ad-supported streams to create an album sale. So the good news for artists and record companies is that they have tweaked these numbers throughout the years. Last year, it would have taken you 1,250 premium streams to equal an album sale, and it would take 3,750 ad-supported streams to equal an album sale. So they have lowered that number down a bit, which should be good news to artists because it means that technically their album is selling better. So some quick examples of what goes on with these album sales is 100,000 premium streams, according to Billboard, would be 100 album units. 1 million premium streams would be 1,000 album units sold. As far as your album getting a gold or platinum, possibly a diamond label from the RIAA, it would take usually 1,500 on-demand audio or video streams to count as one album unit. So that means that it would take 1 million streams for the RIA to certify that as 660 some albums sold. So you don't get quite the recognition from the RIAA for 1 million streams as you would for, say, Billboard. But when it comes to the RIAA, they don't just limit it to premium streams. They take ad-supported streams and premium streams and put them together, so it would possibly end up working itself out to where you actually end up getting more album sales because they are lumping everything in together. Now, what counts as a stream for most of these platforms? This is a pretty quick and easy answer. A lot of the platforms will count it as a stream as long as 30 seconds of the song has been played. So you listen to 31 seconds of any song and then change it, it usually still counts as a stream. Now, a lot of these companies do have a way of telling whether these are artificial streams or not, so you can't just sit there and have a computer play 30 seconds of your song, switch, play 30 seconds, and rack up the streams for you, because these companies have figured it out and they can tell if it's an artificial stream or if it's an active user. So that's all I got for you today. I just wanted to get this out there so when we talk about Billboard top 10 songs and top 10 albums, we know a little more about what it takes to make that list. I appreciate you tuning in again. Until next time, I'm Gibbs. This is Gibbs Drops the Needle. Stay safe and be kind.